Hi, welcome. My name's Dale McCluskey, and this video is part of my series called Flipping the Script. I want to focus in on the divisive, inflammatory rhetoric coming out of the force-free dog training community by way of those who advocate training as a learning-based exercise. And again, I talk about the source of the problem by way of this very popular idea with motivating dogs to respond in the middle of a relationship problem once a dog has already gained a level of control in the relationship, and how this sets in motion a counterfeit picture by way of response, which again, leads to dogs being blamed as the problem versus the real problem. This bribery-based ideology that does not connect dots properly. It does not align by way of how a dog's decision-making process is influenced and governed at the social level. And again, totally shifts the focus away from the role of the dog owner. Now, again, you look at around the dog training world, you're going to see all this back and forth between these two groups of trainers, those who identify as force-free, those who identify as balanced. But again, meanwhile, dogs are ending up in shelters. Dog owners continue to struggle in their relationships with their dogs, even while investing time, money, and energy into this idea of things, getting their certificate. Dogs, moving around in the training environment for treats, for something that they want, going into a fantastic sit, down, come, and stay, only to discover it's totally a disconnected, counterfeit picture. And again, I talk about this by way of my Flipping the Script series. I'd encourage you to check it out. But here in this video, I want to play something because this really illustrates where we're at. This really illustrates the fact that these trainers are just pushing this ideology forward, marketing, no care whatsoever about all the problems that are inherent to this idea. Even while these trainers attempt to elevate this up as science. And again, I talk about why this does not qualify as science based on all the inherent problems. And again, this is all about a type of belief system. So again, I'll play some of this. I'll stop along the way to respond. Again, pay attention to the inflammatory labels, the rhetoric. For those who have a reasonable objection, okay, to how this is being marketed based on all of its inherent problems.
I'm here with Jennifer Arnold from Canine Assistance, and today we're going to talk about positive reinforcement. Jennifer, I know you are very much a proponent of positive reinforcement training methods. Can you tell me why?
I think that anything other than positive reinforcement is cruel, quite frankly. I've seen, abuse in the name of training. It's unnecessary and it's morally repugnant. And I'm surprised that as a society, we allow that to continue to happen.
So right here, again, right out of the starting gate, okay, attempting to, label, anyone who would dare approach a process differently as abuse. And again, I talk about this inability to even reconcile reactions of dogs. And I encourage you to check the video I have on my YouTube channel called The Ice Cream Truck Example, because it lines up almost perfectly by way of a selfish child that is getting ice cream, okay, outside near an ice cream truck, and a parent who says no to the sprinkles. So the child's getting ice cream, but has a major meltdown, okay, by way of not getting the sprinkles to their ice cream, and starts to roll around on the ground, starts to launch into a major temper tantrum, and being a onlooker, a person looking on to this out of control situation, and again, cause and effect, looking at the manifestation, okay, of this out of control child, and looking at it, trying to reconcile the reaction to what happened, and just assuming that the parent must have physically struck the child. Okay, because again, trying to make sense of it, cause and effect, without any sort of, kind of insider's view, connecting dots by way of the fact that, okay, no, it's actually triggered by way of the relationship. The fact is the child's selfish, and the out of control response represented, a moment where parental influence, okay, was part of the interaction by the way the word no. And so the response itself, again, part of the relationship itself, part of, again, the fact that the child's selfish. And understand, when I talk about dogs as social animals, okay, I talk about the reactions, okay, and I talk about the core ingredients, influence and control, part of a process. And this is why, again, when you get a dog on a leash and you start to bring a dog under intentional control, you'll see it, okay? You'll start to see challenge start to rise up for a dog that has gained control in a relationship. When you bring a dog expressing intentional control and influence over the dog, how you're interacting with, you'll see it versus, a dog off leash using treats to generate a response, how that can look fantastic. But again, you get that contrast. And the question you need to ask is, well, what's really happening here? Why am I getting this, reaction when, again, I'm bringing a dog under a level of control, even though it's everything you're doing is reasonable. The dog understands the intent. I talk about that. But, off leash, looking fantastic. But again, this is the whole point. This is why people invest time and money into this, this learning-based idea of things, motivating dogs to respond that way without those core ingredients part of the process. And then wonder, after investing like weeks into a process, or even months, or even years for some people, only discover you're locked into a managing a problem situation. You never resolve the relationship, and you're spinning your wheels. But again, you don't have to wait, okay? Because again, you can just put your dog on the leash and you'll start to connect dots properly in terms of you're dealing with a relationship problem. You're dealing with a dog that has, not just gained control, but held control by way of this superficial idea of things. And again, and even when you hear, I understand this goes into this whole thing about this whole positive language, reward based, okay? And it's a cautionary tale because, again, when I talk about the parenting styles in play here, because it, again, lines up almost perfectly, you're looking at the permissive parenting style. It'd be no different than someone surrounding the permissive parenting style with, positive language, okay? But again, if you look at, cause and effect and outcomes, and again, do your research into permissive parenting, and again, I wrote about this in the book I wrote a few years ago, The Mind and Body Connection, the popularity of permissive parenting. But in terms of just the the effects of that, in terms of parent-child relationship, child becoming selfish, entitled, all those things, the real issue never getting fixed. Even parents coming up against each other, but changing the whole focus, the real issue never gets fixed. So it's the same type of unhealthy dynamic here by way of this idea of things. It plays into that type of parenting style. And again, versus authoritative. So when I talk about the authoritative parenting style and the themes that attach to that parenting style, even in terms of defining, okay, what, we talk about corrections, punishment, what do they represent, or defining, influence, what comes to the relationship itself. Parental influence, the role of the parent, a parent who's dialed into the relationship, who's interacting with. Again, this keys up on this system of training, interaction-based. So interaction-based, means that instead of motivating dogs this way in a very superficial way, understand the relationship is the motivator, okay? So you don't want to motivate, again, when you're in the middle of a relationship problem, do not want to motivate dogs to respond with treats this way, because it sets in motion for so many people a counterfeit picture. Because understand something, this is what all these trainers are focused on. Okay, they're focused on response in a very superficial way. They don't connect dots. They don't understand. I talk about the core ingredients, influence and control, by way of, again, of following a path once a relationship problem is underway, by way of approaching a relationship problem for what it truly represents, a intervention. Okay, just like parent-child relationship, once a child becomes selfish, okay, it's an intervention. And then causation, actually looking at the role of parent, the parenting style in play, and making that adjustment in terms of transitioning into the right parenting style. But even the pushback part, Okay, when you talk about, this whole abuse label, understand this comes from, this whole thing with the inability to reconcile responses. And then what happens in terms of trying to kind of calm the waters, right? Because to really think about this, it'll make sense. Engaging in bribery, accommodation, and negotiation, which will create agreeableness, but the wrong way. Okay, and again, just like applying context in terms of the same themes through with a parent who's again trying to quarterback, certain bad moments with a selfish child, engaging in bribery, accommodation, and negotiation to gain agreeableness within certain moments. So this even applies to certain concepts such as counter conditioning. Okay, context, relationship. So if people ever wonder why it is that you're, invested in this idea, why certain concepts such as counter conditioning seem to be just like feel like a hamster spinning the wheel, like you keep reapplying them, but you're still dealing with the relationship problem. Well, that's why. Okay, understand the two core ingredients I talk about, influence and control, they have to come into a process, and the only way that can happen, they can be reconciled, is through a intentional interaction-based method. So here, this whole thing about abuse. Okay, understand that this is pervasive in the dog training world. But one of the problems here is that through balanced dog training, okay, because balanced dog trainers have put themselves in a compromised position by way of coming into agreement with this ideology, they're unable to push back on this. Okay, they're not able to provide clarity as to, okay, hold on here a second. Training is not a learning-based exercise. So when I say that, okay, that will trigger off balanced dog trainers just as much as force-free for a reason, because that is the line in the sand. Okay, I make it very clear what training is, what it isn't. And then when you add to that, you look around the dog training world, just how divisive it is. Look at all the confusion. You start to connect all the dots. You start to understand this is where we're at. So again, all the rhetoric, and understand this is strong language coming out of the force-free dog training community. And the amazing thing is, even as all these massive problems are happening, a complete breakdown, okay, in terms of auditing, in terms of looking at what the issue is, in terms of truly facing off on the problems. Because here's the point: to do so, okay, requires a trade-off. That's really what it comes down to. Because again, I show training is not a learning-based exercise. So these trainers are marketing this. It plays into people's emotions. Because how great is that? You get to reward your dog, 2 minutes into a relationship problem, and that is a problem itself. Okay, so understand that through how dogs connect with us that way, emotion. Okay, dogs. What happens is the attachment happens. Dogs become very possessive. That's why dogs will go to certain people and attach. They'll follow them into the showers. They'll follow them off, and the person will be thinking, well, the dog loves me more. No, the dog's actually in a possessive state, and now the dog is under a stress load, and there's no way out of it until you start to engage, just like being a parent, and bringing those core ingredients in. So understand that all this rhetoric all surrounds this ideology, which lacks depth, doesn't connect dots. What it tries to do here is really tries to shut down any sort of argument or any counter to say, hold on here a second, okay, this is actually the source of the problem. So this is a attempt by those in the force-free dog training community. You'll see even happen in the balanced dog training community, where they don't want that discussion, because to have that discussion, okay, means that it's going to interfere with the 5-year marketing plan. Okay, understand that this is so bad, so pervasive. Both these groups, balanced and force-free, are doing this. They're all marketing this the same way. And so they're making money off of it, and it's a culture. And then again, even the blame shifting on the dogs has become normalized, because when you have this many trainers, you look at balanced and force-free, which make up about 99% of all dog trainers out there, who are engaged in this, ideology. Now you got a real problem.
It works. We can teach dogs to do the laundry using a little tiny bit of treat.
See, and that's the thing, right? So it's just like we can teach, learning, response, right? But the problem is when you have a relationship problem underway, there's your problem, okay? If that's your criteria to establish, change, right? So if you go through my service dog training video process, I show the whole 4-month process. I show when to start to motivate a response, not at the beginning, okay, when you're dealing with a relationship problem. But understand all these trainers they don't approach it that way. Okay, it's not a interaction-based approach. Those two core ingredients are not part of a process when a relationship problem is underway. This is their default setting. Okay, just like someone coming into your home environment, when you're dealing with a relationship problem with a selfish child, and that individual, okay, the only thought process go on is how can I get this child to respond so I can sell those responses as is to the parent. That's it. Okay, no sitting down with the parent, no looking at the parenting style and play, none of it.
Why in the world would you ever need to do anything else? And people say, well, we work with very kind-hearted dogs. Well, we do, but
Talking about kind-hearted, and this is another problem in the service dog training part of it too, so people are aware. This is what happens. They go in, and it's almost like they know their limitations. Okay, they're engaging this bribery-based idea thing. So when they encounter dogs that have gained a level of control, they write that dog off. They say, well, get a puppy. Let's start fresh. But the problem is because of this, what this ideology represents, you can start fresh with a new puppy, but if that puppy has a little bit higher level of a relational need, higher drive, then you're going to be in trouble anyway. Okay, either it's going to take forever to establish relationship change, but that's a roll of the dice. Just understand that, or it's not going to happen. So understand this plays into how many dogs get washed out, all the problems that are pervasive by way of this ideology. It's all part of it.
the last dog I'm going to try to bully around.
See, there's that word bully. See, understand something. This is very permissive because it not able to reconcile. It's all bribery based. Okay, it's right out of starting gate, so motivate that way. So it's all about agreeableness right out of the starting gate, but the wrong way. This is why to work through a relationship problem, to be able to reconcile certain reactions of dogs, non-existent. So my encouragement to anyone who's looking what's going on in the dog training world, look, if you look at all this type of inflammatory rhetoric, it's all kind of a defense mechanism. Okay, it's like wanting people not to question this, wanting to try to shut it down, just kind of like, well, just trust what we're saying. Anyone that goes against it are uneducated, dog abusers. You hear all of it. But here's the thing, this is pervasive. This is a source of the problem. It's gotten so bad that this is what's going on. This is the type of response you get from trainers who refuse to confront the real issues in the dog training world. Thanks for watching.